lost both teams. Get a grip on this operation, Heather. That's Bourne. Green light the asset.
Sir, I need more time.
We have no time. Are you going to give that order or not?
Sir, please.
You're too naive to see the truth. There's no bringing in Bourne. He has to be put.
He will defend these police officers.
Listen to police officers' commands, listen to what we tell you, and just stop. The nation needs to realize that when we tell you to do something, do it. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, then the courts will figure it out.
We don't get to take the law, we enforce it. But at the end of the day, each and every member should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer, the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous crime.
Nonpartisan liberty for all. And I'm your host, Dave Bourne, and it is October 25th, 2016, and we are coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for joining us or for tuning in to Nonpartisan Liberty for All. We're on weeknights Tuesday through Thursday at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern on the Nonpartisan Liberty for All media and radio network, which now runs 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can get I don't want to say the best, but you can get our shows, the Illumination Hour and Nonpartisan Liberty for All, not just live, but older shows as well. We had actually just finished playing the first 20, which is how much she has so far, of the Illumination Hour, Ellen Stallone show, which airs every Monday. So we are always playing content, and as I had mentioned, I'm always looking for new stuff to play or thinking of new ideas of different things to play. Now, of course, I don't want to violate anybody's bullshit copyright, because I don't believe in copyrights and intellectual property and all that shit. Now, I guess somebody could say, well, if you played my stuff on your station and you made money, then you would be violating my copyright if people, making money off what I did. But on the other side of that, it's, well, if it's just sitting there and either you're playing it and you're able to get it out that you're playing it and they're listening to you, and I doubt you would be playing the exact same episode or whatever, or the same material. Like if it's YouTube material that people would either listen to on YouTube or listen to on the radio, I doubt that it would take any listeners away from other people. And this is a whole nother conversation anyway, for another time. But it would still be supplying somebody with something that wouldn't really be there if it wasn't airing. But, you can try to sue me. I don't have anything, but so I know there's a lot of libertarians out there that do things in Creative Commons, and that I've even talked to, that don't care if I play their show. So I could even play their show as well. And I've thought of that, where they play their show live or the first airing, and then just downloading their show and playing that at a specific time as well. And there are some on YouTube also. Like I wanted to play, as I had mentioned, all Lark and Rose's stuff one day. And I don't think that he would have an issue with it. I can't see him having an issue with that. If he does, he's kind of a hypocrite. And I would not think that Larkin Rose is a hypocrite. So I think he'd gladly say, go fucking ahead and, play a whole day, and that will expose more people. Because that's kind of what it does also is... Here's something that I just want to mention real quick, and then we'll get totally off of the intellectual property thing. But I know this, again, because of my, film degree and taking classes in the history of media, that when radio used to be all talk, they didn't used to play music on the radio. You would have to buy records for that. So it used to be all talk until I don't know who had the idea to start playing records on the radio or whatever. Or they might have played like orchestra or music or something like that, but nothing like the music you hear, like rock and roll or copyrighted stuff that started maybe in like the 50s or something. So at first, radio wanted to play. Actually, I should say at first, the record companies didn't want radio to play their records. Radio wanted to play them because they said, hey, we can play records. I just got to adjust something. All right. I'm trying to get my sound perfect because the last show... And I apologize for last week. There was some personal issues, so I actually ended up only doing one show, I believe. But it didn't sound loud enough. But I don't know if it was because I was playing it. It all depends on how you play it. And I have a shitty transmitter that plays through my car radio. And I played it through there just to hear the sound quality, and now I'll probably end up being too loud for today's show, and then I'll have to go back, because that's what happened too. Before that I was too loud, and I wanted to get softer, and then I don't want to end up being too loud and then have to go back. I want to get the sound. That's something I got to go back to, is to constantly work on the sound and make sure that it is perfect, at least as good as we can get it based on the equipment that we have. I mean, we're limited in that, but at least to get it to that point where, it's as good as we're going to get it based on our equipment, and we're definitely not there. And some of the equipment, I'm not even using my effects machine, which it doesn't just have effects. It also, has things like modulation and compression, but I do have a compressor as well. So, and these are all things that I didn't really use in the past, where I talked about I used to rap, and I had a 4-track, so I that's pretty much all I used. And then later I had a computer program that had compression on it, and I know how it compresses the sound and whatever, but it's different when I'm doing it through knobs and just trying to do it based on by ear. And what is actually coming through to my headphones is not necessarily what's coming through Spreaker, although it should be pretty close, but because I'm connecting directly to Spreaker. But it I'm constantly looking at those levels as well. So anyway, I got into a whole thing there, but my point being is that became the biggest promoter of music or records, or for people to buy records back, when people did, because nowadays everybody downloads everything for the most part. I mean, people still buy, CDs and stuff, but not like they used to. It probably peaked, at the beginning of the decade, maybe. or maybe not. I mean, it probably, when I say peaked, I mean got the highest it was gonna get for the last time and started going down. So not that it peaked, that was the highest ever, but it got up to, the highest it was until it started going down. But anyway, the point being is that people, the record companies wanted to cut off their biggest promoter before it even started, because they thought, hey, if people can listen to the radio, why would they buy the record? And they didn't realize that by hearing a song on the record, especially the way radio was back then where you couldn't record anything, they wanted to go buy the record so they could listen to the song over and over again. But even when you could record shit, like with tapes, you could record songs off the radio. I mean, they were shitty and you had the guys talking on them and all that. And I remember when we used to buy cassette singles when I was a kid, and they had CD singles and things like that. So you could listen to the song. So they didn't realize, and they almost shut down. David Sarno, who created, I believe, RCA, not MCA, but I don't know. I think it was RCA, and they had the whole business plan originally. It was they would make money off the radios, but what they ended up making money off of was they'd have a blanket license. So for a radio station to play the music, they have to go through BMI and ASCAP, and there might be another one now, but I think it's just the main ones are BMI and ASCAP, which is the two companies that distribute all the royalties to the artists, and they would go through them and play pay them like a blanket licensing fee or whatever, so they could play whatever songs they want. It's not like for each one. I mean, if they had to individually do stuff, it would be impossible for the radio stations. But that's what they do, is they divvy the money out based on the amount of plays and stuff like that. So people actually still get royalties off of radio airplay. So they did make money off it that way. But really what it did, the main thing it did, I don't think they make much off radio play, but the main thing it did was it promoted the album, so people knew that, one, the album even fucking existed, and that it had a song that they liked. So I don't even believe they sold singles. Well, no, that's not true. They sold the smaller records, so they did sell them. They were called the 12. Were they called 12-inch singles? So they sold those too, but they buy the album. So that ended up turning into, again, the biggest, at least for the time and for years to come until the internet, the biggest promotional tool for the record industry. And they tried to initially stop it. So you think about things like that where, I'm talking about, copyrights and how they're trying to, it doesn't seem like they're doing what they used to do, where there was a point that they had reached with Napster, when Napster came out and whatever, and they thought they could just shut down everybody, and they shut down a bunch of sites, but it's gotten to the point where you can't it's like drugs, man. And it's like, if somebody wants to get drugs, they're going to get them. You shut down one supplier, another one pops up. It's the same thing when it comes to the distribution of music, or the distribution really of anything, whether it's guns or, it's the same thing that plays over and over again, and they just don't get it. Well, at least that's how the government acts, is, well, we don't get it. Obviously, they do get it. They're stupid, but they're not that stupid. So all the reasons for why they do these things are not because they want to help people or stop something, because they know it. I was even watching, or at least I tried to watch it. I shut it off, but I have it DVR'd, so I'll watch it. And another thing on heroin, because every time I watch these, I get so pissed off now, because I got to a point where I always thought drugs should be legal, but I got to a point where I even realized, not just realized, but just thought more about how everything, or 90% of the power of the police and the people that are harassed by them, even people that never used drugs, never possessed drugs in their life, are affected by these fucking ridiculous laws, which they know don't work. And then they try to, say, well, it's the drug dealers. We need to go after the drug dealers, then not the users. And like the drug dealers are putting a gun to people's heads. They shouldn't be going after anybody. But when it comes down to it, some of these guys are saying, they say the same thing, even though it was done in a way that, of course, promotes still going after drugs, because they have to do that, and blames doctors too. They want to do that, and blames prescription drugs. So they can blame pharmaceutical companies, and they have a big agenda. But even the cops will come out and say, every time, they won't say it in a way that, they'll never say we should legalize drugs, but they'll say, we got some stuff off the street, but after we get this guy, another guy's going to come up and take his place. Right. It's like, there's no point. And not only does it violate, of course, self-ownership and being able to do what you want with your body, but it's just stupid, because it's just a waste of billions and really trillions of dollars for nothing. And you're not helping or saving anybody. You'd be helping and saving more people if it was legal, if that's what you want to do. And that's why it pisses me off so fucking much. And I'm totally off topic for today, but we'll get to it. We're going to talk about commercials, advertisements, including political advertisements, as well as ballot questions I want to talk a little about as well. But I keep getting pissed off at this shit, because that's what it is. If they really want to help people, you would have fucking painkillers on the shelf. Because the new thing is people go from painkillers to heroin. It's over and over again that, we have a heroin epidemic, which is probably, 1% of the population or something uses heroin, or, at the most, even if it was maybe 5%. I mean, it's not an epidemic. It's not even close. But they make you think it is, because they do all these documentaries and focus on all these people. And of course, if you have the amount of people that the United States has, you're going to be able to find plenty of people that are on drugs, because there's just so many people in the country. You could find 1 million people that do anything, really, because it's such a tiny percentage of people compared to the entire population. And I talked about that in the show and putting things in perspective. But it just really pisses me off, because they keep saying it's pushing them to heroin, and how bad heroin is for them and all this and that. And I keep saying, yeah, you're pushing them to heroin, because if you gave them pills that were made by chemists that have been trained and they've been inspected, and the companies are legitimate businesses, not to say that the government has to have anything to do with it, but I mean, just like any other legitimate business, and you let them buy them off the fucking shelf, they wouldn't do heroin. And, if you were more open about all that shit, if somebody wanted to get off they would, and they wouldn't be embarrassed about it or scared to go to a rehab and have it on their, record, essentially, because all information, everything you do is documented. All your medical records are documented now. It's insane. And you could, in the open, it wouldn't be a big deal where people could come out and I do this. I'm not saying me, but I'm saying, and police could actually, if they wanted to, they could talk to people about it and say, hey, if you want to get off them, you could always go here or whatever. And they wouldn't have to worry about being arrested, because now they're doing heroin. So you want to get people off heroin, it's real easy. Make everything legal. And then you can have more of a focus, not by the government, but you have plenty of people who want to help people that are on drugs. You have plenty of former addicts. You have all of these people that are willing to help people. But at the same time, they want to pass laws and say, well, you have to go to rehab. Just because you use a drug does not mean you're an addict or you need to go to rehab, neither. If that was the case, then half of America would be in rehab because of alcohol. So let me get off of that, because it's just a constant thing that I bring up, and it's the constant battle. And there's one other thing I want to bring up, but let me finish my introduction before I do it. So I was saying how we run 24/7, and that you can listen live on Spreaker.com and nonpartisanlibertyforall.com, and to the archives immediately following the show on Spreaker, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. So not only can you listen 24/7 live to whatever we're playing, you can just go back and pick what you want to listen to as well. But I will be coming up with variations of stuff to play. I mean, so far it's pretty much been old shows because we have so many, but I want to be able to expand that to other things, whether it be other people's shows that just want to be on another network and they're like, hey, play my show, or stuff from YouTube, like I said, like maybe playing Larkin Rose and downloading all of his stuff, because I think what he says is very important, or something like, different themes, today we're going to do this or whatever. So I'm still thinking about things like that, but there's so much to do, and really I'm the only person right now doing it. And anybody who has the same, values and ideas that would like to volunteer their time to work on the show, because I don't make any money, so I can't pay you. I actually pay to do the show. But I think I'm building something positive here, and I'm not to the point that I want to be, but I think that we're going in the right direction. And I'm not to the point where I'm ready to give up on what we're doing, because, listener-wise, we've been doing better, and Ellen's show does really well. It's just finding something to kind of bring it all together, and then maybe getting some sponsors involved, so maybe I can hire some people. I mean, probably what I do, although I, would like the money for myself as I need it right now, but not that I'm poor or destitute or anything like that, but there's other stuff. Nothing bad, but I would probably pay people to work on the show rather than have the money go to myself. I'd probably just take what I pay each month, which isn't that much, and anything over that, if I could pay people to do things on the show, I would. It's just, I can't. And advertising's another thing. And at some point, right now I'm trying to save up as much money as I can, but advertising is something in the future that I'm going to look into as well. But on Nonpartisan Liberty for All, we promote self-ownership and the ideas of true freedom. Interns is what I need. We need some interns. I need to go to UNLV or something. And liberty meaning being able to, or the College of Southern Nevada. They used to call it community college. Now it's just College of Southern Nevada. I should go there and post some stuff. I'm sure there's places to advertise interns. I don't think they would give me an official like internship, like they wouldn't look at me as a real business, essentially. Even though, I technically am, but they wouldn't look at it that way. I guess if I was making money, they probably would, but being that I'm not, whatever. So I should call myself a nonprofit until we start making money, because even donations wise, I don't know if I'm assuming they let you know when you get donations, but as far as I know, the donation thing works. Just haven't got any donations. Anyway, on Nonpartisan Liberty for All, we promote self-ownership and the ideas of true freedom and liberty, meaning being able to do whatever you want as long as you respect the freedom of others and don't directly interfere with their freedom, exposing government for what it is, a mafia based on extortion that rules without consent by threat of force and violence. And we are always happy to hear from you, even though we don't hear from a lot of listeners because they listen to the show more as a podcast. They don't listen to it live. But our phone number is 702-470-7664. That's 702-470-7664. Although if we were on in the day, I think we would get more listeners because I even look at how many people listen to just old shows that are playing live, and a lot of people listen, and those are old shows. So not a lot, but I mean a lot for me, I guess. And you can also call in via Skype. The username is Nonpartisan Liberty for All. And all that information, including original articles and blogs, among other things, links to our Facebook and other social media, is all at nonpartisanlibertyforall.com. So please check us out there and subscribe to our social media pages and check out some of the blog articles or article/blogs, which I've been neglecting recently, unfortunately. So tonight we're going to talk all about commercials and advertisements, including political advertisements. I'm going to give a little focus to political advertisements, but all commercials in general and how evil they are, really. And I say that in terms of they try to really brainwash people. I mean, the shit that they put in some of these fucking commercials it's literally scary, and I mean that in the terms that it's scary for kids, because when, say, I see a commercial, I usually, the only stuff that I watch that's on regular TV, the only thing I watch that has commercials is football, college football, and NFL sometimes. So that's all I watch. And then there's a couple of shows that are on cable, but they have commercials. But I make sure I DVR those, and I will not watch them until they've been DVR'd. I won't watch them live because the commercials are worse than some of the indoctrination in just regular TV shows. I mean, I see so many things in these shows. I see indoctrination, I see brainwashing, and it's not just about the product. It's about standards within society and how things should be. And I mean, how many times, and you know, maybe not a lot for some people, but I know for me, I've seen this a lot. How many times have people seen commercials in which the commercial really has nothing to do with the product, except maybe at the end it says the name of the product. It shows like a family type thing, or a, you know, it's emotional. And I mean, I've cried off of, really the main one I cried off, I had to do with the animal rescue thing. And I don't know that that's really I mean, in a way it is brainwashing, but it's kind of true, that a lot of these dogs and cats that go to the shelters end up, getting euthanized. So, and I love, dogs and cats for the most part. Usually I except sometimes our dogs and cats are bad, but I mean, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and you know, to think about things like that. So I would watch, I forget it was what channel. There was some channel that always had this fucking commercial on, and I literally would have to change the channel when it was on because I would cry. Now, what was fucked up was that when they had a similar channel about kids starving to death in another country, I could deal with that channel or that commercial. And I kind of felt like, is that fucked up, or, you know, am I fucked up because of that? Because it bothers me more when I see the dogs and cats. Basically because, you know, dogs and cats are just innocent animals. If they do bad things, they don't have the mental capacity to really, you know, like attack dogs. They attack people because they're trained to do it. It's not necessarily because they're just evil. I'm sure there's dogs with or cats with bad personalities. I mean, a lot of cats especially are really bitchy. And I have 2 cats that are the friendliest fucking cats you'll ever meet. And I will only, if I ever get another cat, I will make sure that my cat is exactly like that, because besides that, you know, when I was younger, I had those cats that just wanted to be left alone and they were bitchy and whatever. The cats I have now, some people like that. They want an animal, but they don't want to be bothered too much. But my cat will come, both of them will sit on my lap. One will lick my face. She thinks she's a dog. The other one, you know, he'll come and sit on my lap or lay down with me or whatever. So these are cats that are very friendly and want affection and whatever. So I would see that commercial and I'd literally start crying and I turn the fucking channel. So I could say that's a type of brainwashing in a way, but at the same time, it isn't, in a sense, because that is actually based on fact. So is it brainwashing and indoctrination when you're telling the facts? Probably not, but they're looking for sympathy, so people will go and adopt a cat. So they're trying to put, or a dog, and trying to put those ideas in your head. So I guess from that standpoint, you could say that. But in general, it's really stating the facts that there's so many dogs and cats and there's not enough owners. And if people don't go and buy these dogs and cats or give them a home, that they're going to end up being put to sleep, which is really sad. So, but I wouldn't, that's not really what I'm talking about. So I see commercials though, because that's exactly what the point of the commercial was. But a commercial with a family that, you know, I won't cry, but, you know, they'll make you kind of sad or emotional or whatever. That's for a car. So you're watching this commercial that has nothing to do with families, have nothing to do with any of the shit that's going on. But what they're trying to do is evoke emotions within you. And, like the Pavlov's dog thing have, and this isn't always the case, but association where, okay, you associate some happiness or family or whatever with this brand of car or something like that. And it's really fucked up. And in other ways too, when it comes to family or school, mainly government schools, or those types of commercials. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but where they'll show something related to, say, school and the family, and it's almost like it's trying to not shape society, but base it off of how it should be, or people see these commercials with a certain type of family and they have a nice house and they have this, and there's a certain type of, or a certain amount of assumptions on how society is supposed to be based on these commercials. And that's where, like I said, I almost think that in a lot of circumstances, that especially with all the political commercials you're seeing now and all the commercials for the military that you see, that there is a lot of indoctrination. So before we get to that, just a very, very brief history. Supposedly, from what little research I did on the history, because I wasn't going to make this about the history of advertising, but advertising started in newspapers in England in 1625, the first main form. Now, there may have been, or documented form, who knows, went on in ancient societies where people sold things. I don't know, but that's, and they were newspapers, but they said they were on like some kind of scratch, like paper shit. I don't know. So supposedly though, the ancient Chinese, I had heard, they were printing like way before everybody else. So anyway, maybe not the ancient Chinese, but the Chinese were printing way before everybody. And I had a class in 7th grade where it was a printing class where we literally did the old way of printing, where it fucking sucked. We did like our name and address or something like that, and we had to take each letter, and then I'm trying to remember, because this was a while ago, obviously. And I don't remember how we got them to stay together, if we put them inside some kind of thing. But I remember them going on a metal sheet and going through a printing press. And then we'd get a sheet of paper with that printed out on it. We'd put ink on it. And that was like, I think, almost the original way of printing shit, I believe. So I don't know if that's what they were doing back then, but it could have been something similar. I don't know. I don't know when that kind of type was invented. And at the time, I don't think that's how they were making newspapers. And I remember I actually worked at a place that printed newspapers, and it was all automated, and they'd get like some kind of files or some kind of templates or whatever, and run all the newspapers that way. So I don't think that was the standard of the time. I think it was, okay, we're going to show the class how they printed, who knows when. And they probably told us when they had used it. But I mean, like I said, it's when I was in 7th grade. So I don't recall. But I do remember us putting, taking each letter and putting them all together, and you'd have to individually get each letter, and they were these metal little thingies, and going through and doing like I said, I think it was our name and address and whatever, or phone number, or just like something like that would be on a business card or something like that. So that was fun. It was actually really fucking annoying. I even remember that. I remember it being very annoying because we had to go through and take each letter. And I'm curious what they did with that stuff. I don't even know if the school is in the same place. Again, that was junior high. It may have been, because that was a newer school. And when I say newer school, for the people in Las Vegas, it wouldn't be considered a newer school. It was like, when was that built? Maybe it was built in like the 60s or something, compared to the high school that was built in like the 20s. That didn't even have air conditioning. And they finally rebuilt my high school, actually, maybe 5 years ago, something like that. They took, I think, the land behind the school, and it was pretty big, and then they built it. I think they built it behind it and then demolished it or something like that. I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time, so it was after the last time I had been there, which was when my father died. So that was 2000. That was 2011. So, either that or I just didn't give a fuck and I didn't want to see it anyway. So, political commercials. So these are what really frustrate me, because you have, first of all, for anybody who's listening to the show who hasn't listened to it before, I believe all elections are rigged, and I'm not Donald Trump. I'm surprised he said that, but he says it in a way. It's rigged against him. It's not rigged for anybody else. It's just him. But I don't mean rigged that they are changing the ballot box or the actual results. It's all rigged by the media, government media, political parties, and money. They essentially do what I'm talking about, except they do it not just with commercials, although they do put a lot of advertising into it. A lot of it, the rigging of elections, a lot of it, to be honest, is advertising at the lower levels. President, it's more than that, because that's all they talk about on every single fucking show. Any political show, that's all they talk about. They talk about, I don't know how they can find so much shit to talk about that has to do with the election. So while the elections are going on, you can do all this other shit in government, and corrupt stuff and whatever, and no one's really paying attention. Not to say that they don't report on anything else during the election cycle, but what's funny is that your vote doesn't mean shit. Now, even if the election wasn't rigged, your vote still wouldn't mean shit, because you have so many people in this country, and you started with a country of 7 million. No country should be this big. And again, the U.S. is the third biggest country in the world. if you look at, now, if you believe that election results aren't rigged and all of that stuff, and that's fine if you believe that. Not really, but, it's fine as far as everybody has their opinion and their right to it, and I totally believe in that. But I think it helps to keep the government in power, because people don't realize they're being ruled, and they have no control in it. But it's still their right to think that. So, but even in if it was a legit election where anybody could actually run for president, and the parties didn't run everything and narrow it down to the two candidates really for you, essentially, and then manipulate everything to make sure the candidate that they've already picked to win wins. Even if that wasn't the case, your vote still doesn't really mean shit, because you have, I believe, at least 100 million people are going to vote. Now, I don't even know if that many people are. I know Obama was not even elected by the majority of registered voters, if I'm correct. Meaning that if you take all the registered voters, how they voted, because the reason why is because a lot of them didn't vote. So if you take all the votes from registered voters, of course, some went to, if we're talking about the last presidential election, which I am, some of them went to Romney. Of course, I don't remember the amounts, but it was a relatively close election. I mean, it wasn't like a landslide election, if I recall correctly, when I looked at the stats. So I looked at, like, people over 18, registered voters, blah, blah, blah. So what it came down to was that a bunch of people didn't vote, and then you had all the votes for Romney. So those together are more than the votes that Barack Obama got, because a lot of people just didn't vote even though they were registered. And in this election, it will really, I think it will say a lot when the numbers come in, if they actually give you the right numbers. Now, I don't think they'll rig the election. I think they would if they had to, but they don't have to. But they could inflate the numbers, because it looks bad. And I'll tell you why. They get on these campaigns to have people vote. Why do you think they would care? Now, you think about it. The government, in a lot of these cases, is spending money. Some of them are non-government related, like MTV's Rock the Vote or whatever. I mean, I think that's all MTV. Or certain voting campaigns that have nothing to do with the government. But I'm pretty sure that the government has their own campaign voting commercials, like that they put money into advertising, speaking of advertising, to get people to vote. And they used to try to use, I haven't heard it recently, but I'm sure people still say it, that bullshit line that if you don't vote, you don't have a right to criticize. So what happens if your person won? You voted for that person. Should you have a right to criticize because you voted for them? I mean, it's all bullshit. It's a way to get people to vote. And the reason why I believe they want more people to vote is validation that, one, the person who ends up in office wants to be able to say, the majority of people voted for them, and the powers that be want to be able to say, look, the majority of people believe in voting and believe in the ideals of this country, and they go and vote. And they want to be able to say that. And they've seen that the amount of people voting has gone down by a lot. because people are not voting when they know it's rigged and it's a bunch of bullshit. So in Nevada, you can actually select none of the above. So since we're into voting, one of the things I wanted to bring up is voting on questions. So I don't believe in voting for any candidates, period, because I don't believe in giving anybody permission to rule over me or to have any authority over me. And I know some people will say that if you do that, you contribute to violence and all that, but I don't buy into that whole concept that because there's a lot of people that believe in a lot of the same principles I do and may have voted for the Libertarian Party. And I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't vote for them, especially based on the candidates that we have. One I know very well because he was governor of Massachusetts when I happened to live there, William Weld, who was responsible for a drug law that I've mentioned this before, a bunch of them, mandatory sentencing for 1,000 feet within a school if you possess drugs and shit like that. And, those type of mandatory bullshit laws or mandatory sentencing laws. So for him to now say he's a libertarian, I was surprised because I didn't even know that he was vying for the vice presidential nominee or even presidential nominee in the Libertarian Party. And maybe he was just vying for the vice presidential because I didn't see him in any of the Libertarian debates, which I watched a lot of them. And I mean, there's so many things you can point to that show that it's an oligarchy controlled by these two parties, obviously, that the majority of people, if you look at polls, so I know somebody criticized me about this, but the actual the facts, this just contributes to what I already think. I don't think what I think based on this poll. So there was the poll about the majority of people don't like the candidates. So think about that. If the majority of the people don't like the two candidates, then how much say did they have in getting those two candidates nominated? Not much. It means the majority of people in the U.S. don't have any say because they don't even like the two candidates that they're just being put in front of them. And the other thing was, now I don't know if there was a poll on this, but I don't believe that the majority of people are part of a political party out of choice. I believe that they're part of a political party out of necessity because you can't vote in a primary. So look at it this way. If you're not part of a political party, it means essentially you have no say in who's nominated. Not that you do anyway, but let's just pretend you do. So you have no say in who's nominated because the independent parties don't matter. They don't let them participate. They shut them out. They do all this shit. So you have that. And then you just have these two people that are picked for you. And you're supposed to pick one of two people that has been selected for you. Just because you don't believe in their political party. And you don't want to be part of their political party because you don't believe in their values. So a lot of people, register as one or the other, or don't even know. I remember, so I never voted, but I did a, what do you call it? There's a name for it. Because I didn't go to my poll. I was going to vote actually once, the last election, the last presidential election. And I did it was like some kind of special ballot that you can only vote on the state or the federal elections. And I don't even know that I finished it because they're like, it might not even count anyway, because we went to my fiance's polling place at the time. You know, she didn't know a lot of the shit that she knows now, of course, from me. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I for some reason, I was like, all right, I'll vote for these offices, which I think were only like 3. And again, I don't even believe I finished it, or I don't even believe I turned it in. I might have gave it back to the girl, but she's like I said, she's like, well, it may not even count and whatever. So I'm just like, whatever. Besides that, so technically I never voted, because prior to that, that's the only time I kind of voted. But that wasn't even a real vote because it didn't even really count. And they told me that. But my point of this conversation was that she said to me, she's like, Democrat or Republican? I'm like, I'm independent. She's like, I know, but Democrat or Republican? I'm like, no, I'm independent. And she had to ask me like 3 times. I'm like, no, I'm not part of either of these parties. So, and she was like, you know, in high school. So, my point being is that they indoctrinate people with these 2 parties as well, that this is the system, because more than anything, even though I don't believe they run things, you know, some things that are meaningless, but they don't ultimately run things, but that the Republicans and Democrats want to make sure they stay in power, that there's never a third party, that it's between them. It allows them to make all these deals. It allows them to do all these things. And they're basically the same party. They just, you know, differ on the issues that are not that relevant to the big scheme of things. Now, I'm not saying they're not relevant, and they might not even care, but they like to go back and forth a lot of times on stupid shit to show, oh, yeah, we don't like each other. And then, of course, they're hanging out with each other. But one of the things I did want to talk about is, and in Nevada, there's 2 questions that are important, and I've seen a whole bunch of commercials on them. And one of the things I hate with commercials is assumptions. So I'm gonna take a break and play some clips. I got some interesting montages of commercials, political commercials, and then we'll talk about voting on the questions, because I also want to talk about, is that actually something that you do have say in? Now, again, this is for the whole state. So how much say do you have if, you know, at least 1 million people, I mean, Nevada, I think, has like 3.5 or something million people. So out of that, I'm not sure the percentage that's eligible to vote, but let's just say 1 million at least. There's got to be at least 1 million that are at least eligible to vote. Probably more. Let's say 1 million are actually going to vote. So do you vote for those questions? Because even though you really don't have a say, do you have a say in that? Are these rigged the same way, number one? And number two, these are direct questions that, if answered by the people, they're supposedly supposed to go into effect. Now, how they go into effect and all the details and all of those things, how much control do the people have over that? Well, none. But how meaningful are those questions? So we'll talk about those, and we'll talk more about political commercials and commercials in general, advertisements in general, but with more of the focus on the political side, depending on how much time we have left. We'll try to get to other advertisements and commercials, but I definitely want to make sure we get through the political ones, because they really piss me off. They really do, especially, like I said, the ones that make assumptions. Anyone that says the majority of us, like, and I'll just leave I guess a teaser at this. Like, so one of the questions, and I'll get to it, it has to do with guns. The guy said, and he's telling people to vote the way I would want them to vote on this question. But he says, well, all of us want background checks. So he assumes, and this is a form of brainwashing and indoctrination as well. They've done that with background checks. That background checks are almost automatic with most people. That and remember that we're talking about a country that didn't have fucking background checks at one point, didn't have laws against drugs, didn't have all these things, but at some point they needed them. They were a must. So what happened? People all of a sudden changed, got out of control. Is that it? Is that what happened? People changed? Because really people don't change for the most part. It's not the people. I mean, people may change their opinions on things here and there, but I think in the big scheme of things, and with that, I'm mainly thinking of slavery, and that's a totally different thing because you're talking about human beings. But when you're talking about all these other things, and the reasons behind all of them were one or two incidences, not like, something like slavery where you're talking about enslaving people, and then on one side you're talking about the word freedom for people. That's insane. So there's no comparison. Anybody who wants to, bring that up, and this is more recent as well. The change with guns. Well, the first it was after, I think, was in 38. I think 1938, and part of it was because of organized crime. But of course, organized crime was getting their guns illegally any fucking way, you fucking morons. Anyway, so we'll play some commercials. Well, not actual commercials. We'll play some clips of some of these commercials and how ads brainwash you, and then we'll be back after this. Nonpartisan Liberty for All. Check us out at nonpartisanlibertyforall.com.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terror.
Right now, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk about who you should vote for or whose campaign ads are more effective. What I do want to talk about is how campaign ads brainwash you using 100-year-old filmmaking techniques. The technique is called the montage, and it was one of the first visual storytelling techniques in film. To start, let's watch the most famous montage of all time.
Just for people that don't know, that was from the movie Psycho, which I'm sure everybody knows, but just in case.
So here's the question. Do we ever actually see Marion Crane get stabbed? The closest contact the knife makes is right here. That's it. But with montage, with a series of images moving rapidly across the screen, you can convince a viewer they see her stabbed repeatedly. The scene consists of quick shots of the knife, Marion's body, and Marion struggling and screaming. When seeing those images all at once, we associate the images with each other and create a story in our brains of what we saw. Essentially, we got brainwashed.
Now, the third way is what one might call pure cinematics, the assembly of film, and how it can be changed to create a different idea.
Here's another montage in Citizen Kane in 1941. It tells the story of Susan Kane being forced to perform across the country under the pressure of her husband, Charles Kane. Here's a more contemporary montage with two people shooting up heroin. We didn't actually see anyone do the drug, but the assembly of the images told the story for us.
Now we have a close-up, then we show what he sees. Let's assume he saw a woman holding a baby in her arms. Now we cut back to his reaction to what he sees, and he smiles. Now what is he as a character? He's a kindly man. He's sympathetic.
So let's see how campaign ads do it.
The world a president has to grapple with. Sometimes you can't even imagine. That's the job. And she's the one who's proven she can get it done. Securing a massive reduction in nuclear weapons.
In Hillary Clinton's New World campaign ad, we cut from the White House and its long white pillars to Hillary Clinton walking in front of more long white pillars, to her walking off a plane, to her talking with Vladimir Putin. Now, these editors have thousands and thousands of pictures of Hillary Clinton to choose from for this commercial. It is no coincidence that they chose an image of the White House and then 3 clips of common activities and locations we associate with presidents. The walking by the White House pillars, the leaving Air Force One, the talking with other world leaders, all reinforced with the use of the phrase, "That's the job." These editors are using a montage of images to make us imagine Hillary Clinton as president. When we see her working hard in these familiar spaces, we imagine her filling those same shoes and see her as a president in a positive, familiar way. But montage and campaign ads can also go from positive to threatening.
Now, let's take the middle piece of film away, the woman with the child, but leave his 2 pieces of film as they were. Now we'll put in a piece of film of a girl in a bikini. He looks, girl in a bikini, he smiles. What is he now? The dirty old man. He's no longer the benign gentleman who loves babies. That's the difference. That's what film can do for you.
We are at war, not just abroad, but here at home. With the clear and present threat of radical Islamic terrorism on the march, we must secure our borders. But Washington continues to fail us with groups like the Gang of Eight that support amnesty and allow sanctuary cities.
This video shows radical terrorists and illegal immigrants in a menacing dark green tint, followed by the Capitol in front of a thunderstorm, followed by Marco Rubio. This montage, along with the tint and grainy found footage look, cinematically associates Marco Rubio with something Americans fear the most: terrorism. The montage manipulates the audience to see Rubio and his policies as terrorist-friendly. What immediately follows is Ted Cruz in bright, saturated light speaking in front of a large crowd, serving as a metaphorical savior to Marco Rubio in the first half of the commercial.
America needs Ted Cruz, the one proven conservative, for president.
A Donald Trump ad uses a similar technique by fading out from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama to 2 Muslim-looking people and an ambulance carrying an injured person in the background.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism.
These montages are carefully assembled to associate Clinton and Obama with terrorism. With the right images in the right order, you can create whatever emotional response you want. I want to make it clear that this video is supposed to be nonpartisan. Republican ideology allows for more brutal campaign ads because they want to show Democrats are soft on terrorism. Democrats, to be just as brutal, could also portray Republicans as vicious warmongers.
Think about it.
I would bomb the out of them.
One of these Republicans
Carpet bomb them into oblivion.
could actually be president.
Here we see a montage generalizing the Republican candidates, keeping them in low saturation, low quality footage, and physically shrinking them in small aspect ratios. And of course, Hillary's clips are bright and take up the whole screen.
Who can stop them? Hillary Clinton.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary campaigners made a montage of wounded soldiers like Nixon did in one campaign ad in 1968.
Never has so much military, economic, and diplomatic power been used so ineffectively as in Vietnam.
The point is that the assembly of images is extremely powerful. Everybody does it, and it's not just limited to movies. This form of cinematic brainwashing happens all the time, not only in campaign ads, but also other commercials. Beer commercials don't sell beer, they sell an idea, and that idea is conveyed through a montage of people smiling, being social, and having fun. So know that more goes into campaign ads than you might have thought. And remember not to just vote for the candidate whose editor put images together the best. My name is Jack Nugent, and I approve this message. Thanks for watching.
Here it is, a groove slightly transformed. Just a bit of a break from the norm. Just a little.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. And you can tell them to go themselves. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. When Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
You gotta see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember.
Our children and grandchildren will look back at this time, at the choices we are about to make, the goals we will strive for, the principles we will live by, and we need to make sure that they can be proud of us.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
In Hillary Clinton's America, the system stays rigged against Americans. Syrian refugees flood in. Illegal immigrants convicted of committing crimes get to stay, collecting Social Security benefits, skipping the line. Our border open, it's more of the same, but worse. Donald Trump's America is secure. Terrorists and dangerous criminals kept out. The border secure. Our families safe. Change that makes America safe again. Donald Trump for president.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism. That's why he's calling for a temporary shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can figure out what's going on. He'll quickly cut the head off ISIS and take their oil. And he'll stop illegal immigration by building a wall on our southern border that Mexico will pay for.
We will make America great again.
Speaking to wealthy donors, Hillary Clinton called tens of millions of Americans deplorable.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
People like you, and you. Deplorable. You know what's deplorable? Hillary Clinton viciously demonizing hard-working people like you.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Our next president faces daunting challenges in a dangerous world. Iran promoting terrorism, North Korea threatening, ISIS on the rise, Libya and North Africa in chaos. Hillary Clinton failed every single time as Secretary of State. Now she wants to be president. Hillary Clinton doesn't have the fortitude, strength, or stamina to lead in our world. She failed as Secretary of State. Don't let her fail us again.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
welcome to Philadelphia International Airport. You will find your baggage at carousel number 2. Local time is 7:31 p.m. Enjoy your stay in Philadelphia.
Well, a lot of people think of my father as a tough guy, and in many respects he is. Growing up, my brother, sister, and I had to really know what we were talking about before bringing him any kind of proposal. He may be a little less tough on his great...
Or else he would yell at us and threaten to beat us to a pulp.
...grandchildren right now. But it's that toughness that I want renegotiating trade deals with China and Mexico. It's that toughness that I want keeping me and my family and your family safe. My father will make an incredible president.
Donald Trump wears raccoons on his head. How can a man that wears raccoons be president?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. I don't know. I was trying to think of something. Anyway, back to the commercials. Well, the examples of commercials.
The most important job any woman can have is being a mother, and it shouldn't mean taking a pay cut. I'm Ivanka Trump, a mother, a wife, and an entrepreneur. Donald Trump understands the needs of a modern workforce. My father will change outdated labor laws so that they support women and American families.
That's nice. He's going to change outdated labor laws. Now, what labor laws specifically would they be? Because I know they say there's a gap, but then, of course, they don't look at individual jobs. They just take the total and say, well, women as a total make less than men as a total. Let's not look at the specific job and the experience and how long they've been working there. No, none of that. Let's not look at that. Let's just, say, and don't get me wrong, it used to be a lot harder for women to succeed in the workforce, and I know that, but it's not like it was even 30 or 20 years ago. Not that I'm even saying it was bad 20 years ago, but that's really a whole nother issue. But it's an issue that bothers me because all I see is women in positions of high positions in companies, of all the companies I've worked for in my life. Now, that's just personal experience. That's a small sample. So I can't really take that and say, well, that means there's no discrimination against women. Of course, there is in some circumstances. I think there's discrimination against men in companies by women in certain circumstances. One of the things I have brought up before is that everybody is different, and you can't make everybody equal. And there's certain things that women possess that a lot of them abuse to get ahead. And, there's certain circumstances where men are promoted over women because, if you take a woman and a man that's vying for the same job, the man might get the job over the woman, or the woman might get the job over the man depending on how she looks. And there's that goes on too. And that's not fair to the woman unless that's something that she played into. So a lot of women will do that as well. Basically, everybody should have equal opportunities. Nobody should not be hired or not be given a certain amount of pay solely based on their race or how they look or their sex or gender or whatever. But involving the government in every aspect and saying that there's not advantages that women have that men don't have, and there's a lot of them, and there's advantages that men have that women don't have, and I'm not saying that the job market is one of them. I mean, women also have babies. A lot of women take time off from work like years and then come back to work, so that's going to put them behind. There's so many variables to everything, and you don't want the government coming in and regulating that and going through every job you create. Do you want every job you create and every person you hire for the government to actually review that? And just have the government hire your people and just give them, instead of hiring people for your company, just have the government do it. And people are forgetting, when people think of companies now, and this is kind of indoctrination as well, but it's also because there's been so many of them and the government supports them and helps to put small businesses out of business. But people think of corporations. They've been brainwashed. When they think of companies, they think of the billionaire or the multimillionaire CEO and all the executives that make, millions of dollars. They forget about the thousands of small businesses that are essentially like a animal that's being extinct. And they want to treat them the same way they want to treat the corporations. Now, they may be incorporated to protect their assets, and that's not something that I believe in because it's a government creation, but, it is what it is. You might as well use it to your advantage. But it's not the same thing, and people are lumping them all together. But anyway, that's a totally different topic, but I just wanted to, being that they had said that in that ad, I wanted to add that in real quick. So we'll go back to the Trump commercials. I think these are all Trump commercials against Hillary, and a lot of them are really stupid.
He will provide tax credits for childcare, paid maternity leave, and dependent care savings accounts. This will allow women to support their families and further their careers.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
There's the Hillary standard, and then there's a standard for everybody else.
What's the Hillary standard?
Well,
you're against same-sex marriage. Now you're for it. You defended President Obama's immigration policies. Now you say they're too harsh. You support.
One more thing that I'd like to add here, because I think that this is important, and I've mentioned this before, and the fact that, 30, 40 years ago, probably going on maybe 50 years ago now, that you could own a house, own a car, have a job, and support a family with one person working. And the government helped to destroy that by design, because they want both parents working, because that gives them the opportunity for government media and government schools to program their children. And they want to get the future. That's what they've been doing over the past 150 years, is going after the next generation, because they know that, this is a long-term project to take over the country, because this is not a country that is hard to turn into a communist or fascist or oligarchy, although that's pretty much what they have done. But it took a long time to even get to where we're at now. So they want to keep going and taking it to the next level, and that's how you do that. Like I mentioned about gun control, and we'll kind of get back to that a little based on the commercial, but not too much into it. But that people automatically, background checks is an indoctrination because there never were background checks. Then, because of some incidences, now we need background checks. It didn't matter whether the guns were bought legally or not. It didn't matter how they were obtained. We need background checks. And then through the years, I think there was another gun bill in the 60s with Johnson. And then, of course, later with the Brady bill and passing that. And then you had a quote-unquote assault weapons, which there is no such thing, ban during the Clinton administration. So throughout history, they have gone after guns, but they started at a certain time. Before that time, they didn't, period. So when you look at things like that and you look at how they didn't, ever go after something and then they started to, and somebody just texted me and it made me lose my train of thought there. The same way that this whole, now I think women should be able to do whatever they want. Whatever they decide. But this whole having a family with a husband and wife and both of them working, now it could be the husband staying at home. I don't give a fuck. But I don't think, and now again, this is my opinion, people have the freedom to do what they want. But at the same time, government enables it. Not only did they enable it, they almost forced it because most people cannot survive unless both parents are working. And why is that? Inflation, manufacturing, leaving. But if it wasn't for all the taxes, if it wasn't for, we're the highest, the U.S. is the highest taxed country, corporate taxes, I believe now in the world. So they did a lot of that by design. And, for them to do that for their own benefit, the same way that they do the same thing with guns or whatever they want to exploit to meet their goals. But when it comes to having a family, to me, it's a one or the other thing. Or you either do that or you work around each other's schedules so somebody's always there, either the mother or the father's always there with the kid. But I don't think that unless, of course, again, you're in a position where you need the money, that a kid should be raised by government schools and preschools that they want to have for free so they can start indoctrination at 3 years old, and daycare facilities and all of that. I don't. I think either you do one of two things. Either one parent works and one parent stays home, which is getting harder and harder to do. And even with, I do better than I was saying, maybe like 60 or 70% of the population. That just means everybody else does really bad, trust me, because I can't afford to do it. I couldn't afford to support a family, and people would look at what I made and say, how can you not support a family? And I'd say number one is because, a quarter of my money is gone in taxes. And I'm not talking about just the tax, the federal tax. I'm talking about the Social Security, FICA, whatever is gone right away. Yeah, if what I made, if there were no taxes taken out, I could do it easily and no problem. But because taxes and Social Security and all of this other shit and insurance, and it's even it would even go up, of course, if I had a wife and kid on insurance. So I can't even physically do it. So I'd have to work out something where I worked a certain schedule and my, wife, I don't have a wife yet, but I have a fiance, would have to work on a certain schedule. And that's not only not fair to the parents because they're barely going to see each other. It's not fair to kids. And why would anybody even want to have a kid now on purpose? Because what you have to go through and what you have to sacrifice. I mean, fuck, my mom stayed home when I was a kid and he couldn't afford it. He had to work like 80 hours a fucking week. It's something ridiculous like that. But this is how it is. And then, of course, they gave me the government babysitting at 5. So, but that's only half day. So by 6, and then my brother, once he, hit first grade, where you're in school full time, then it's okay. Then you can get a job. But you're handing your kids over to government babysitters, which I'm not going to do. If you want to do that, hey, go ahead. And I understand. It makes your life easier. But I'd rather have a kid that's not brainwashed, indoctrinated, and a slave of the system than make things easier for myself. If I'm going to have kids, whether it's by accident or on purpose, which most likely at this point it would not be on purpose because of the fact that it's too crazy. You have to sacrifice way fucking too much. So, I don't know. Society is so fucked up now and people don't even realize it. And they don't realize how things like that affect them because, they just dumped their kid off at fucking the school, or maybe you get free daycare from your job and you just drop your kid off at the fucking daycare. And you don't look at that as any sacrifice. Well, I do, because you're sacrificing your fucking kid and their whole well-being mentally as a person. They're just going to get thrown in and brainwashed with all the rest of them like cattle. So I didn't mean to interrupt this again, but that's something that I can't bring that up enough. There's so many things that are going on and so many things that are important that, I can't bring up half of them enough. If I bring them up every couple weeks, I'm happy. Whether it's drugs or, and when I say drugs, I mean all the bullshit and them being illegal and people going to jail and, self-ownership and the government taking over freedoms and the police and whatever. They're just so much. And then they're going to have to deal with that. But I'd rather, if I had a kid, them deal with that and have the tools to deal with it, which the government system of whether it's babysitting or babysitting outside of, government schools is not going to give that to them.
Reported his trade deal dozens of times. You even called it the gold standard. Now, suddenly last week, you're against it.
Unfounded, inaccurate, mean-spirited attacks with no basis in truth, reality.
We had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
I have been as straightforward and honest as I could be. I did not send or receive any information that was marked classified at the time.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
Will you say anything to get elected?
Extremely careless.
Email system was breached by hostile actors.
Gross negligence.
Hillary Clinton put our national security at risk, and she's still lying.
Director Comey said that my answers were truthful.
That's not true. Even the Washington Post says Hillary Clinton lied.
I think you get the point on these, so I'm going to play a Hillary ad, and then we'll go back to the show.
Her parents abandoned her when she was just 8 years old. She was mistreated, but she never gave up. And she taught me to do the same. My mom's life and what she went through are big reasons why standing up for kids and families became such a big part of my life.
After law school, she could have gone to a big firm, but instead went to work for the Children's Defense Fund. In Arkansas, she fought for school reform to change lives forever. Then as First Lady, she helped get health care for 8 million kids. You probably know the rest. The senator who made sure the heroes and families of 9/11 got the care they needed. The Secretary of State who joined the cabinet of the man who defeated her. Because when your president calls, you serve. And now a new title, Grandma.
I believe that when families are strong, America is strong. It's your time. I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve.
West Side.
The world is mine, nigga, get back.
Nonpartisan liberty for all. And we are back. I guess maybe I'll start calling Hillary Clinton Grandmama. I don't know if probably a lot of people aren't. Well, people in Vegas should know this. So I was going to say aren't old enough to remember that. But when they were kids, because when I was a kid, on the UNLV championship team was Larry Johnson, who later did, when he played for the Charlotte Hornets, I believe, did commercials dressed like his grandma and would do like slam dunks and shit like that. And they called him Grandmama. So I'll call Hillary Larry Johnson. But I know I went off on a whole thing on that. And I don't think that just because a show is on a specific topic, now I don't want to totally interrupt a topic to go off on something else, but I don't think that we can say enough about some of the things that I brought up. I think those have to be brought up on any opportunity to bring those up. They should be brought up, because this indoctrination and this brainwashing, man, is just rampant. And it's, I don't know what percentage of kids are, if you look at, say, kids in their 20s now, or say kids 20 years old that have graduated from high school in the past couple of years, what percentage are what I would call brainwashed? Like I had mentioned, background checks. All think background checks should be illegal. Now, they might not all think drugs should be illegal, but I bet you the majority would say, most drugs should be illegal. Like heroin should be illegal. And all of these things that are thoughts of the government. Guns should be what they call assault weapons, which they don't even know what the fuck they are, because again, it's the assault weapons ban, for people who don't know, was not a even specific ban. What it was is, if a weapon has, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 of specific characteristics, and you have people doing this that don't know shit about fucking guns too. You would think maybe they should bring in advisors that actually are experts on guns, that can show them, like a show I watched. They basically made the same thing as an AR-15 as far as how powerful it was and what it could do, but it would have passed the assault weapons ban because they took off a couple things that really don't even do a lot, just scare people. They make the guns look scary, I guess. So anyway, I want to get to the actual commercials and things. So before the break, I had mentioned that there are questions on the ballot. I know there's a couple states where it's not legal, and they wouldn't call it like illegal, but I mean, it's not something that's in their state constitution or within the law there to do it. But a lot of states have questions that they put on the ballot that they allow people to vote for. Now, how they come to the fucking conclusion of what's going to be on there and what's not, I'm not sure. I believe it's something where it's one of those fucking signature things, and if they get a certain amount of signatures, there's a process you got to go through. And of course, it's the legislation or legislators that really get to implement it how they want to. So there's 2 questions that I think are very important. One of them was on there before, because I remember, and this was like 10 years ago, I remember a question, and I'm almost positive, I could have been wrong, that it was recreational marijuana. But one of the questions is to legalize marijuana, and that's 2. So I would vote yes on 2. And then the other one is what they're calling closing the loophole on background checks at gun shows, which they come up with these figures which are bullshit. And I've never bought a gun at a gun show that I didn't have a background check or seen anybody buy one. I realize that technically you can have a booth at a background check and sell one, but you'd also have the whole thing with family members giving other family members guns, and then they'd be classified as criminals and whatever. So even the Attorney General did a commercial where he had said, vote no on 1. Was it no? See, they confused them. Yeah, because no would, I should look up the question. I believe no would, because it depends on the way the question's worded. And I can't remember how the question's worded, but I just know what the ballot question, the effect it would have. So it would be no, not to close the loopholes, because it would apply to private sales and people giving, family heirlooms and all of that shit, and it would criminalize a lot of people. Plus, show me a gun, which they can't do because it hasn't happened, that wasn't bought legally, that was used in one of these shootings. And I'm talking about the, ones that they claim are mass shootings by the supposed people, because I believe some of them, and we're going to talk about Sandy Hook, weren't done by the people they say they were. And I'm trying to look at the other side of that, the people that attack the people that claim it's a hoax. And so far, all I've seen was them just say they're crazy, they don't know what they're talking about, and regurgitate the same things that they claim that they're referring to why they think that. And those aren't the reasons that they're giving as to why it's a hoax. So I haven't seen anything yet that really refutes anything that has been said as why it could potentially be a hoax. Now, I don't know what happened, but we are going to talk about it. So my point was in that commercial that I didn't like the fact that he came out and said, well, we all want background checks. But so that's been a thing that supposedly a poll said 90% of people want background checks. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if it is, it's from indoctrination. That you can't have a gun unless the government approves of you of having a gun. They do a check on you. They run your personal information. And people don't give a fuck about, they want to know what medications you're on. They want to know all of this shit, and they want it to be in a fucking database. And that's crazy. So you should have to give up your medical privacy because I figured this out. I talked about it last week, like 0.0002 or something percent a year are killed by guns, and that's not counting suicides because you can't count suicides. And a lot of these suicides are they take their parents' guns anyways. But it's, there are plenty of ways to kill yourself. I'm pretty sure. I know that guns are, if you were looking at ways to kill yourself, are more efficient, but there are a lot of efficient ways to kill yourself. So to say that we have a problem with gun, where way more than double gun deaths are suicides, or did I say that right? Suicides account for more than double people that are killed with guns. So when you take suicides out of it, the number's like 12,000. And something like 2.6 million people a year die, 1 million of them between heart attacks and cancer. And nobody seems to be focusing on fucking heart attacks and all of that shit. And I don't think the government should be neither. But the government is the opposite. They're, giving protection to companies like Monsanto and stuff like that, and protecting the big corporations, which they shouldn't have anything to do with it, in my opinion. But they allow them to copyright seeds, and that's a whole nother. It's hard to not get into all of these other issues when you're talking about one thing, because they're all interrelated. Because if you have a plan to do something, obviously the steps within your plan are all connected somehow. So in commercials is a big, or advertising and commercials is a big part of indoctrination and brainwashing. And that's why I said, like, it's, I think about if I had a kid, once they reach a certain age, when they're a little baby, I don't think they can notice anyway. But, to watch a football game and to see the commercials that they air, especially now with the political commercials, but even when it's not election, well, every year I think is an election year, but technically, I guess it depends when, you got elected, because you got state elections, a presidential election year, and where you got a lot of people up in the House of Representatives and the Senate and whatever. But at least well, no, you have actually less in Nevada, but you got the Senate seats up for Harry Reid's retiring. So a bunch of commercials about that. But I'm not scared of, or it doesn't make me nervous, them watching the football game. And first of all, I wouldn't be nervous about the kid watching even fucking horror movies or shit like that. Like, you know, maybe horror movies just because it gives you nightmares. But as far as what they want to watch, I'd be more nervous about watching things that will indoctrinate them. I'm not worried about, oh, this has fucking bad language in it, or this, you know, is violent, or things like that. And it's funny because that's what, you know, how most people think. And I would find flaws within that thinking and say that I'm more worried about the shit that has the indoctrination when they're that young. Once you get to a certain age and you're cognizant of it, even though, you know, growing up a certain way, and most people didn't grow up cognizant of it, it's hard, even when you realize it's there, to totally rid yourself of that. But that's what would scare me the most. The fucking commercials. And the propaganda within them is worse than, when it comes to at least football. Now, I don't watch any of those fucking, you know, network shows. So those have a lot of shit in them too, but I don't watch them, so I don't know the last time I've seen one. You know, I've seen mostly cable shows is what I'll watch, and the ones with commercials, there's a couple I watch, but mostly I just wait until they come on Netflix and watch them then, and then there's no commercials at all. Because they really bother the shit out of me, especially now. I mean, you have these political commercials, and in a minute, they're trying to make all of these claims against whoever they're running against. And, you know, you don't have enough time even really to process the information to be able to go and check up on those facts. Now, if you just want to, you know, of course, if you want to look into it, you can look into it. But I think what a lot of people do is they may not have time. I mean, people have lives. They have other stuff going on. And there are a certain percentage of people that will base their vote based off of these fucking commercials or what they heard on TV. There really is. And then you have things like, and that I'm talking about even a Senate race that they might put maybe some more time into it. But what about, you know, I see billboards, which is another form of advertising. They're all over the place for judges, for assemblymen, whatever the position might be. For they have the new billboards now too, where they can, you know, show you one ad for 10 seconds and then go to another one. And I noticed that I don't know what his title is, if he's the head county commissioner or it's not head, but that's what he is essentially. He's up for re-election, and that whole county commission, they can all go as far as I'm concerned. But he'll probably get re-elected because they all do. They did last election. And I saw his sign, and that's another form of, you know, advertising and commercials. And who's going to go through, you know, every judge and every smaller position? I mean, some people will, and that's great for them. But the federal government essentially controls every state anyway. And to me, you don't have enough say because there's too many people voting. Your vote doesn't mean shit. You could get involved in a campaign and waste all your fucking time for like judge or something. And, you know, who really knows a lot about a judge? How much can you even find out? And then you get these fucking judges who all of a sudden they have a courtroom where they can find you in contempt of court, have too much power, and are making all these decisions just because they got enough votes. It's insane how this whole system works. And people claim it's the best system in the world. Maybe it was the best fucking system in the world in, 1790. And if it's the best system in the world now, it's only because every other system is so bad. It's like the U.S. dollar. That the U.S. dollar, I believe, has more value still than any other currency for the moment. And it is still the reserve currency, again, at the moment or for the time being. But it's still terrible. So it's like, it may be the best currency to have, but it's not good. So it's the same type of thing. People claim, this country, the freedom and whatever. All that means, or this is the best justice system in the world. All that means is every place else, it really shows how fucked up governments are. And I haven't put a lot of thought into, I have that, in general, all governments are fucked up and what governments are based on. And that's just building an empire and the ability to control every aspect of your life. That's what governments do. That's the whole point of a fucking government. It's control. But I never really put a lot of thought into other governments unless, something came up. But I can see now how the U.S. has been so revered because of how fucked up all these other governments are and how they have a lack of freedom compared to the U.S. And all that means is just that, again, their level of freedom is so low that it makes the U.S. look great. If you've been given something, if you've been giving bread and water to eat, and then somebody throws you a fucking cookie or something, that's the best thing in the world. It's a bad analogy, but that's really what it is. And these political commercials, I'm seeing them for not just, the Senate race, but for state assembly. I believe I've seen a couple. I don't watch enough of regular TV with commercials to see them. Like I said, I see them. I watch ESPN as well when the college games are on. So if there's like a show about college football, I might watch it. And that's my, kind of escape, I guess, from all the bullshit that goes on. And it goes way beyond just the government. It's the whole the way the system is set up. It's the corporate system and how you're, forced really into this fake American dream, and you're held back because of all these government regulations of really doing what you want to do and accomplishing I'm not saying that people can't accomplish what they want to accomplish. I've accomplished a lot for somebody who's been told that I'll never do anything. I'm not going to be nothing. But what I'm saying is, as far as innovation and people just being able to start their own businesses and all of that stuff, and being stuck in a corporate world as opposed to working for smaller family-owned businesses, or, you know, that maybe at some point, depending on the family, maybe it's something that, you know, you can move up in and take over. Maybe, you know, there's so many things, but just thinking of the corporate structure and how it's all based on politics and it's based on stock prices, and you have venture capitalists buying up companies just so they can fucking break them apart and make money off of them, and nobody's really making things or a part of anything. And you're stuck in that system because you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to quit and, you know, start my own business, because, you know, with inflation, with this, with that, although you see people, immigrants that come over and in 10 years, they have their own business because they sacrificed so hard. So I think that's part of it too. But I think that you're going to see less and less of that because of the government is making it harder with all these restrictions and regulations for you to have the freedom to follow those dreams and be able to make them reality. Now, again, I'm a big proponent of, if you don't make it, it's your own responsibility and you have to put the blame on yourself. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that things aren't harder and that you have these, and I don't want to come off like, you know, I believe in any type of socialism or communism or anything like that, because I don't at all. I believe in free markets, and that's what I see the problem is that we don't have free markets, because if we had true free markets, you would have all those opportunities that there's less and less. Now, you can still make your own opportunity. It's just harder than it used to be. And that's also with, you know, all of these regulations that benefit banks and the Fed and corporations and don't benefit small businesses. So you end up getting kind of stuck in this corporate type world if you want to have any success financially, or even some success as far as, you know, your position within companies, because that's really all there is. It's getting to that point. You know, of course, the internet helped make a lot of opportunities, or give people a lot of opportunities, which is a great thing. But let me get back to these commercials, and we're basically we're kind of at the end of the show here. But let me go through some stuff real quick before we go. As I had mentioned earlier, I think it influences societal norms. You know, you see the family, the American dream commercials, everybody's great and happy, the white picket fence. Or you have commercials where they're trying to invoke emotions. And again, none of these commercials have anything to do with the product that they're selling. They try to give you some kind of feeling and then maybe association with that feeling in that product. Another thing that I think more government does, but is create problems and then come up with the solution. So taking advantage of, and I'm not saying you're taking advantage if the government created a problem, but if there's collusion between a corporation and the government where they create a problem and then, you create the solution. And I think that happens more with companies that make military equipment or weapons or those type of things. And I'm not talking weapons like, ones you buy at the gun store. I'm talking about military grade weapons that are made by like Raytheon and what was that other fucking company, Northrop. Both of them were actually in the town that I lived in. What was kind of scary is they turned the Raytheon building into a supermarket. So, and you don't know what's going on in there. And you buy some food with some radiation in it or some shit. I'm sure they did whatever they need to do. Well, who knows? Hopefully they did whatever they needed to do to, ensure that something like that didn't happen. But I'm sure it's very possible with how things are. Of course, the other things that changes in advertising, I brought up the billboards that, you can run 5 different ads on one billboard. You have all the lights and shit now, like the, like Vegas, all the lit up billboard stuff, that flashing lights and it runs stuff across it. And then, of course, the main thing, the internet. I mean, marketing and advertising has been totally changed by the internet, obviously. Whether it's email or websites or pop-ups or, all of the various ways, social media, of course, I think being the biggest one right now, all of the ways to advertise on the internet. Now, those I think would be the least indoctrinating types of advertising would be the internet is a lot different. TV would be, the biggest. And of course there's still radio, newspaper and magazine, and you still have all of those, but I don't think they have the effect that TV does. I think TV, when it comes to commercials, is the worst. And of course you have, even on the internet, you have YouTube, you have commercials that you'll go to a site and they'll just automatically start fucking playing a commercial. So you can't even get away from commercials on the internet. And there's been a lot of celebrity commercials. Like I remember recently Matthew McConaughey doing a car commercial, and you don't even really know. You assume it's about a car because he's driving in a car, but he's like talking about some other shit that has nothing to do with the fucking car. The other thing is selling people into debt. And I think this is another way that the government is able to control people at the same time, is that you'll see all these things or targeting kids with commercials for toys or whatever it might be. And I think you see this on TV shows as well, but you'll see the family that has the big house and has this and has that, and everybody wants that. And people are in fucking major debt because of it. And at a point, I went through that when I was younger, not seeing everything and wanting it. It was more like, for me, it was different. I think, because really I didn't go around buying a bunch of shit. It was more, I didn't want a roommate and I wanted to be able to live on my own. And then I bought a house that I shouldn't have bought, and that kind of really got me in debt. So And I should have got a roommate, and eventually I did, but by that point it was too late, and he didn't stay that long anyway because he had some personal issues in California, so he ended up moving there. But I'm afraid that's going to have to be all for tonight. Sorry I didn't focus as much as I would have liked to, but I think we kind of got to the main point of what I wanted to discuss regarding commercials, and that's the whole thing with, you know, shortening the show to 2 hours as opposed to 3, which I have no problem doing 3 as far as being able to talk for 3 hours, but because of issues with sleep and things like that, that's why I had cut the show to 2 hours, but a lot of times I end up going over and going 2.5 and sometimes even 3, but today's been a long day, so I apologize for that. But we will be back tomorrow. Ken Shorgen, I haven't talked to him, but is supposed to join us as he does every other Wednesday to talk about the economy and geopolitics. So be sure to tune in to that one. And of course, we will be going live immediately following the show, as we are 24/7, a 24/7 network. So we'll be playing some old shows, not that old, but I believe over a year old, going back to, I think, early 2015. So, which actually got some good shows. I do a lot of shows that, as I had mentioned before, are somewhat still relevant. You know, not that I've been on the air that long neither. Only been doing it, 2.5 years now. So they're still relevant because a lot of them are just topic based, not necessarily based on the news going on at the time. So be sure to tune in to that, and we'll be back live tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
But at the end of the day, each and every member should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous